All right, let's do some rankings of the quarterbacks in tech. You want to do quarterback rooms or just quarterback? Just starting quarterback.
I just want to do quarterbacks, and I really kind of want to just do the top 5, honestly.
Perfect.
Because I think that's really, to me, there's 5 that kind of stand out. And to me, they are Arch Manning, Sawyer Robertson, Kevin Jennings, Behren, Morton, Josh Hoover. Like, I feel like those are the 5. Like, when I was doing the all-state team, we do a first and second team all-state team. Those were the 5 quarterbacks that I had under consideration. Marcel Reed, Owen McCown, Connor Wegman, kind of right on the other side of that. But I think those 5 quarterbacks are deserving of kind of having a discussion of who we think the top 5 are. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because there was nothing I beat my head against my desk more this magazine season than selecting the first team quarterback and the second team quarterback in All-State. Like, it was the thing that I have stressed out about the most, and I continue to up until when we send this thing off on June 9th, because I don't know if I've made the right decision.
So, I mean, we don't want to give it away, though, who you picked, right? Do you want me to just guess who I would put as my first QB?
Well, we can just have the conversation, and maybe people can, like, deductive reasoning what they think that I mean, I won't say what I did. Okay. But like I say, we just have a conversation of how we would rank those players, how we think that they stack up. So who would you think, who is the first team all Texas guy? Like, who would you put there? Like, who do you think the best quarterback? And again, this is not necessarily the best quarterback last year, obviously, right? Like, this is a projection. Who is going to be, and that's the hard part, is how you balance past performance with future expectations. That's the part I struggle with, because I've seen all these quarterback lists all off season, and they all have the same guy from the state above everyone else, and it's the one who has played the least amount of football.
Yeah,
and that's the hard part to me,
because it's the right answer. Like, I'm not going to pretend and sit here and say that I'm actually projecting Sawyer Robertson to be better than Arch Manning. Like, maybe that happens, but I'm not going to say that right now. Arch Manning is the toolsiest guy. He has shown flashes of brilliance. He has the best team. You know, he's got the NFL bloodlines. You don't ever think it's Arch Manning.
And he's got Sark.
Yeah, true. Like, it's there is a reason that Arch Manning did not leave Texas.
Yeah. And there's a reason that the guy drafted by the Dolphins did.
True.
Right. So, like, if Sark, who sees this every single day, had any questions and thoughts about this, Quinn Ewers could have come back to Texas. But there wasn't even a discussion of that. Like, there wasn't even like smoke about that possibility being happening. Like, Quinn Ewers' decisions were to go make money elsewhere in college or to go make money in the NFL. Like, it wasn't to be the starter at Texas. And to me, I mean, I'm going to trust Sark's quarterback development and quarterback like knowledge and scouting. And if he thinks Arch Manning is the next guy, then why would I not?
What did you think of Aaron Murray, former legend at Georgia? I saw he had a quote go viral a couple weeks ago of like, Arch Manning, if you're that good, why are you sitting behind a 7th round pick in the NFL? I personally just think it's not that simple. Like,
no, there's a lot of context to that. Like, Vince Young redshirted. He was better than the quarterback that Texas had his redshirt freshman year. You know what I mean? Like,
justice for Chance Mock, though. Shout out.
right. And so, like, I just think like Quinn Ewers in his 4th year in college and his 3rd year in that system versus Arch Manning, you know, as a freshman, you know, probably not the same. But obviously the upside there, and you have an whole offseason. I do think that's missing a lot of context for sure.
All right. So if Arch Manning is number 1 just off projection, I think the next conversation, see, man, I was about to throw out Hoover. Okay. Behren Morton is not in this conversation. Behren Morton is, to me, the clear-cut 5.
Yeah.
Do you think so?
I think that's fair. That's where I would land too. I think some people would disagree with that, and I can see how at his best, Behren Morton could be in that conversation. Like, he was the 8th leading passer in the nation last year. You know, like, he threw for 3,300 yards and 27 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, like, had a really big year despite the injury concern. So, like, if you're a top 10 quarterback in the country passing wise, like, you deserve to be in the conversation. But like, yeah, I also think that he's probably the odd man out in that grouping. And it came down to me of, if Arch Manning's 1 and Behren Morton's 5, how do you parse the Kevin Jennings, Sawyer Robertson, Josh Hoover conversation?
It's very interesting because I'd say the two best seasons, considering everything that happened, are SMU and Baylor. And the two lightning rods to their teams were Kevin Jennings and Sawyer Robertson. But who is worse without the quarterback? If SMU goes with Preston Stone that whole time, maybe they're not in the college football playoff, but I don't think they're going 6-6. If Baylor stayed with Daquan Finn, I don't think Dave Aranda's here.
I don't either. That's true. Yeah, that's true. Well, and if Josh Hoover didn't throw for over nearly 4,000 yards, like Sonny Dykes probably enters this year on the biggest hot seat instead of, winning 6 of their last 7.
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't think there's a real wrong answer. I think Sawyer Robertson is building a case, and I've seen him kind of be kind of a dark horse, buzzy, kind of hipster type pick in these quarterback conversations when you're listening to podcasts and stuff in the offseason. I think he played really well that second half of the year, fits the offense that Spavital runs, just being a former air raid guy, former Mike Leach protege there, and Sawyer Robertson, who, started his career at Mississippi State. But then Kevin Jennings led the team to the college football playoff. And here's my thing with Jennings. The Duke game and the Penn State game and the Clemson game, like those, I think, sit in my mind more than maybe they should. Like,
I don't think that's wrong to think about those games. They were I'm not going to do the Clemson game because he was better in the second half and led that comeback. The Duke and Penn State games, you go down this entire list, and I'm talking 1 to 10. Not even these top 5. Those are 2 of the worst games that any of those guys had. And that is not to take away from the season he had and how great he was last year in leading them to the playoff. Those 2 games are the worst of any of the 10 guys on that list.
Yeah, because 2 things can be true at once. Like, SMU isn't in that game to play Penn State without Kevin Jennings, and Kevin Jennings gave them no shot to win. He looked overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. And now he's going to go through a whole offseason where he's the guy. He's added about 15 pounds of muscle to really handle. I think he got tired. I think he got worn down towards the end of the season. Just hadn't seen athlete. I mean, Abdul Carter's chasing anybody, you're going to pay. I mean, that guy's a freak of nature. Like, he didn't have much of a shot with his offensive line, but he made some decisions against Duke and Clemson and Penn State that you just can't make. You just can't make those as a quarterback. You have to give your team better shots there, better decision making there. That's my worry with Kevin Jennings, and that's just the image that I left with. Like, Josh Hoover ended the season tremendously. Sawyer Robertson ended the season tremendously. It's unfair because they didn't have to play Penn State on the road in a college football playoff game, but you just watch that game and you think about the last month and a half of a season, and it didn't look up to par with some of those guys. And so I thought it would be very easy that Kevin Jennings would be the number 2, because he ended last year as like a Heisman contender and just what he did for his team. But I think to me, it became down more to Sawyer Robertson and Josh Hoover than it did Kevin Jennings.
And of Sawyer Robertson, and I agree with that, I'd put Kevin Jennings at the 4 spot here. Sawyer Robertson and Josh Hoover are the 2. You go either way at number 2. I would personally go Sawyer Robertson just for not only – it is true that TCU could have gone horribly wrong if not for Josh Hoover having some heroics, but also Josh Hoover's receiving core was one of the best in Texas last year. You take into account Savion Williams, Jack Best, JP Richardson. He had weapons, and I know the running game was atrocious last year, so we had to do too much. But where Baylor was at 2-4 was so bleak. And with Sawyer Robertson's supporting cast was good, and he had a way better run game, but he was the reason that he saved Dave Aranda's job. And I think for that, he should get the number 2 spot.
Yeah, and he had about 100 fewer attempts and a touchdown more. He was super efficient, was the highest. All the guys we've discussed, he had the highest quarterback rating last year. And he didn't start from the beginning of the year. So if he had started those games and got those stats, he'd be more comparable to Hoover. But I think the part to me that always stands out with Josh Hoover is how much he's asked to do. He didn't have Bryson Washington.
Or Dawson Pendergrass.
Right. You're right. He did not have a run game at all. Like it was Josh Hoover or TCU's about to get their ass kicked. Like that is it. And there was a couple games where they got their ass kicked because Josh Hoover turned the ball over a couple times. Like SMU stands out. I think that Houston game, probably not his best either. And so, like, how much do you punish him for having to do more? How much do you credit him for having to do more? I think Sawyer Robertson is in a better position. I think Spav's the better offensive coordinator as well. I think Robertson's in a better position to go succeed than Josh Hoover. But if we switch teams, would that be true? Like, I don't know. I think that to me was the difficult
part. Yeah, because what does Sawyer Robertson look like on TCU?
Right. And what does Josh Hoover look like at Baylor with Spav and a good running game in that way and a solid offensive line, a better offensive line than what TCU had? Yeah, it was just.
This might not be fair.
I could switch it right now in the magazine and be okay. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's a photo finish for sure.
Coin flip for sure.
But this might not be fair. I almost think this is such a dumb take. I think Josh Hoover might be better at Baylor than is at TCU.
Yeah, he would be asked to do less, which would make him more efficient. And I think a lot of times, like we see efficiency as kind of the gold standard of this deal. Because not every offense is the same in college football, like what you're asked to do, what you're not asked to do, how efficient are you? Sawyer Robertson was uber efficient last year, but he's allowed to be. And I think maybe the deciding factor here is Robertson's a better runner. He's more athletic. He's a bigger guy, but I think either one of those guys is worthy. And the idea of leaving off like a top 5 returning passer in college football it proves how good this state is at throwing the ball and at quarterbacks. Like, it is just loaded. And going into last year, it was hard to find 2 quarterbacks I wanted to put on the All-State team. Going into this year, it was hard to cut it at 2. We just mentioned Owen McCown not even being in this conversation. He may be the best quarterback in the G5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a loaded year for QBs. It really is. I think all these top 5 guys could have been the number 2 quarterback last year. So it's I'll cut it if it's not, but it's pretty much on public record that Josh Hoover was courted by Tennessee. Right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I wonder if Tennessee reached out to Sawyer Robertson at all. Because that might give you the answer too.
From what I know, Oklahoma kicked the tires on the Spav Sawyer Robertson tandem, because they wanted to bring in kind of an OC quarterback pair to kind of, 2 birds, 1 stone type of deal, hit the ground running, because it's such a big year for Venerables. And it didn't seem like there was much movement there. I think Baylor, kind of ponied up to the table and was able to match that. I think one of the reasons Tennessee went after Hoover is, one, he fits perfectly in that system. Like, that Kendall Brile system is what Heupel runs, right? Like, that veer and shoot is all Art Briles. Like, they are running an offshoot both of like Kendall's dad. And so I think one of the reasons Tennessee was really enamored by Josh Hoover is it is plug and play, and probably a quarterback who's better suited for that than the quarterback who just left for UCLA. Whereas Robertson's more air raid, kind of a different type of passer, a different type of quarterback than the one they were looking at.
It's so neck and neck. I think I know who you went for. But like you said, you could flip this any which way. It's driving me crazy trying to pick between Sawyer Robertson and Josh Hoover. I can't imagine what it's like for you right now. So I don't envy you right now, Craven.
I've wanted to change it a few times. Linebacker was another one that was tough because we have like 4 really good ones for 3 spots. Keaton Thomas, Anthony Hill, Torian York, Jacob Rodriguez. Like, who do you leave off of that group? But other than that, definitely like, who is the second quarterback? Because I'm with you. I think Arch Manning has to have one of those spots there, because you look like an idiot if Arch Manning is the top pick in the NFL draft and you didn't put him on the list.
You're just being a contrarian at that point.
Right. And so you like Arch Manning's there. The upside, you're okay with getting burned on that one if he doesn't live up to the hype. Like, right? Like, egg on my face, sure. But then for that second spot, and again, the guy who just led a team to the college football playoff we're not even discussing him in this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just an unbelievable year for quarterbacks in the state, which is why I think this year has the opportunity for 2 or 3 teams from this state to get into the playoff because we have really, really good quarterback play.
And the last thing I'll say here is like, I struggle with who is more valuable to their team because I did say that Sawyer Robertson doesn't go in for Daquan Finn. Dave Aranda's not here, but I also wasn't weighing like, dude, if Josh Hoover doesn't play for TCU last year, I don't know what they go. Like it could have been really bad.
5-7.
Yeah. I could have been worse than that.
They would have back-to-back years of not making a bowl after going to a national championship game, if not for their quarterback being awesome. And he could easily lead the country in passing and not be on our first or second team. Sawyer Robertson could lead Baylor to a Big 12 championship and not be on our first and second. Like we have to leave one of those guys off. And that's just crazy to me. Same with Kevin Jennings. Like most years I've done this. This is my fourth magazine, I think, that I've like been the guy to choose this. I think in any other year I've done it, Kevin Jennings would be easily the second quarterback
100%
on the list. And I don't even think he's in the top 3. And so it's just wild, just absolutely wild.
Yep. So when you pick up the magazine this summer and you look at that all Texas team, and you say these picks suck, just know that this is the type of mental jujitsu that goes into that.
We do think about it a lot. Like I do spend a lot of time on the all Texas stuff and just like what I think and how I want to do it. And I struggle with like how much we use the previous year's production versus this next year's projection. I don't want to completely just be my opinion because that just seems unfair and like not the purpose of the magazine. You're trying to take a picture in time, and it's not just like what I think. I'm not going to put Ryan Wingo as one of the top wide receivers when he hasn't done anything yet, right? Like I'm gonna, and so like I do think it's stuff like that is hard, and sometimes there's just a position that's loaded. And this year it's quarterback on offense and linebacker on defense, whereas finding 10 offensive linemen was tough because there's so much turnover at that. And then the last thing I'll say in terms of all Texas while we're talking about it. There is not a better description or illustration of what has happened to G5 football than doing the all Texas team.
Yeah.
It used to be very easy to get UTSA and North Texas and Texas State players on there. Now with the portal, any of those players you're thinking of putting on are gone. Like there's not an all conference player returning to their G5 school in this state. Like they either graduated, left early for the NFL, or transferred. And so, whereas it was closer to 60-40 P4 to G5 when I first took over, it's now 85-15 because you just who can you go find? There's so many unproven commodities, and all their best players move up. Like Trey Moore at UTSA would be undeniably a first team defensive end, but he plays at Texas, and like he's not better than Colin Simmons.
Yep.
And so like it just all is gravitated towards the top. And it goes back to what we talked about at the beginning of this with the expanded of the playoff and just the consolation of power just to get like, it's all the talent, the money, it's all just flowing to the top, right? It's all trickling up and it's making the sport harder and harder for everyone else.
Yeah. Not to rub salt in the wound for the G5, but like, I do get to see some behind the scenes on this when Craven's working through the all Texas team, and you will have a group of 5 guys in there who then leave during the spring transfer portal window too. So like that's the biggest one.
Yeah.
For the all Texas team.
What's crazy is not even just the G5. Like, yeah, it was like Mason Shipley at Texas State, Sam Houston's punter. Like there was a couple of guys that were on where I had to move. I had to move 2 Houston secondary players because they went to Florida State and LSU respectively. Right. Like it's just harder and harder to keep that talent if you're not like the cream of the crop. Maybe the revenue share kind of helps with that because then everybody's got some money to spend. But it is where I notice the talent migration the most is every year magazine doing the all state. It's like, ooh, man. Because I try to have at least one player from each of the schools there. I think that's important. I don't want it to be a Texas A&M Texas list, right? With like some Texas Tech, Baylor, and TCU players sprinkled in there. I want it to be representative of the state, more of a pound for pound type list. But as we mentioned with the Arch Manning thing, you also don't want to be just a contrarian to be a contrarian. And so, how do you balance that? It's gotten hard. It's gotten harder for sure.